Kenya's Deputy President William Ruto's trial has begun at the International Criminal Court. Mr. Ruto flew into The Hague from Nairobi on Monday to face crimes against humanity charges related to post-election violence in Kenya some 5 years ago. The trial, which began at 7:30 GMT, comes just days after lawmakers in Kenya approved a move to withdraw recognition of the court's jurisdiction. Mr. Ruto and his co-accused journalist Joshua Arap Sang, 38, each face 3 counts of murder, deportation and persecution. They allegedly committed the crimes during a wave of violence that swept Kenya in 2007-2008. At least 1,100 people died and more than 600,000 were left homeless. Both have pleaded not guilty. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta, a one-time political foe of Mr. Ruto turned ally, goes on trial at the ICC on November the 12th. He also says he is innocent.
At the ICC, if, among other reasons, a state was...
Well, as the world watches the case against William Ruto at the International Criminal Court, the first against a sitting deputy president, Kenyans on the streets of Nairobi react to the proceedings involving the leader they voted into power 6 months ago.
Ruto's date at The Hague has arrived. This is the toughest test yet for the ICC as it faces mounting criticism from Africa for only targeting African leaders. Here in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, reactions are a mixed bag.
Justice must be done. That's the first thing, because we call it repercussion. It can happen to anybody. So first, justice has to be done, because we had a lot of the IDPs in Kenya. So this will tell the truth.
With this Ruto's case, on my side, I see it will affect the country. I just wish that this case should stop, or they bring it back here in Nairobi.
The cases are there, they have to appear. Yeah, they have to appear, and if they are innocent, as they say, their defense might prove them they're not guilty. So, me, I'm okay with it.
Not both of them being out there. It's not right. Yeah, we need them. And The Hague should leave our president for us and the vice. Let them find their real culprits.
Kenyans are split down the middle. Those who back the court proceedings for the sake of justice and those who prefer to have their leaders back home and dealing with everyday issues like the high cost of living. Maria Galang, CCTV, Nairobi.
Well, let's now take you to the International Criminal Court in The Hague and bring you some live pictures coming in where Kenya's deputy president is attending his trial there at the ICC. Now, Mr. Ruto's trial has begun at the International Criminal Court. Mr. Ruto flew into The Hague from Nairobi on Monday to face crimes against humanity charges related to post-election violence in Kenya some 5 years ago. Ruto is charged with co-accused Joshua Sang.
Potentiaries on the establishment of an international criminal court, and now chief of the Victims' Participation and Reparations section at this court, Mrs. Fiona Mackay, I quote, "There would be no justice without justice for victims, and the International Criminal Court must therefore be empowered to address these rights and needs. It would be the court's ability to bring to justice those responsible for the crimes within its jurisdiction that would do most to satisfy the expectation of victims," unquote. Your Honors, these words hold true today as they did in 1998, 4 years before the provisions of the Rome Statute came into force, paving the way for the prosecution and punishment of the most serious crimes known to man. Now, a victim of Kenya's post-election violence of 2007-2008 echoed this position in even more compelling words. And again,
well, those are live pictures streaming in from the International Criminal Court where the trial against Kenya's Deputy President William Ruto has begun this morning. Now, the Kenyan government is lobbying the African Union for Pan-African support against the International Criminal Court. Rwanda is one of the countries backing this cause. CCTV's Girum Chala has more.
Kenya's Foreign Minister Amina Mohamed and her Rwandan counterpart Louise Mushikiwabo have been meeting African Union Commission Chairperson Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, and the International Criminal Court tops the agenda. Commission officials say they want the AU officially to withdraw support for the ICC and to urge African countries to pull out. 34 of the AU's 54 members are signatories, among them Nigeria and South Africa. Just last week, Kenya's ruling party voted through a motion to pull Kenya out. Rwanda never signed up to the court. The African Union's criticism of the International Criminal Court is well known. It's long accused the court of picking on African leaders. Still, the AU previously has said it's up to member states to decide whether to stay in the ICC, but it has made clear African countries that are able to dispense justice should be free to do so without interference from the International Criminal Court. Grumchala, CCTV at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa.
Well, let's get more analysis on this developing situation in Kenya. I'm now joined by Mr. David Ohitu, the Vice Chairperson of Kenya's Editors Guild. Thank you for joining us here on Africa Live. Now, how has the public mood changed, though, and evolved over the past couple of months leading to the trial?
Thank you, Beatrice. It's been a very trying moment for Kenya. And remember, we just emerged from the general election in March. So there has been opinion divided. One, a section of Kenyans who support the deputy president and the Jubilee government and who voted for them and are really feeling bad that Kenya's leaders are facing trial at The Hague. And then there is a section of the society that is feeling there are cases of victims who really need to see justice being done. But whether this court will really mete out justice is a different case we are all waiting to see. Whether
this court will mete out justice is a different case, but has the healing process, though, in Kenya following the post-election crisis of 2007, 2008, has it now finally begun, or had it begun already?
There is what we can call and describe as tempered peace, but there are still those wounds which are healing. Just a few days before this case commenced today, we saw IDPs, the final batch being dispatched to get out of the camps. And there are a number of victims who have been maimed permanently. So there hasn't been enough healing. We haven't done a good job as a country. And I don't think even this case before the ICC will go down as a healing moment for this nation. No.
All right. Members of Parliament, though, allied to the government, have brought in a motion to have Kenya pull out of the Rome Statute. How is that going to eventually pull out, though?
Kenya is a very interesting and highly political charged environment. It's not the first time MPs are bringing such a motion. They brought it first and then it was shelved. And I think some people saw it wise to reignite the motion again. What it sends across board is a very bad signal that we are a country that is not ready to address impunity. But there's also the flip side of it, that despite a changed judiciary, which is well funded with the new set of judges, we are still unable to commence charges against lesser offenders who committed crimes. And for the victims, I don't think there are victims who can point out directly to, say, President Kenyatta or Deputy President William Ruto, that you really attacked me and forced me out of my place. So there are less offenders that victims are looking forward to, that we wait for the day justice will be meted on their case.
Has the country moved on, though, from the 2007, 2008 crisis?
Yes, there are lessons which have been learned. I'll begin with the media lesson. At least the media was fairly more responsible, having one of us, Joshua Sang, being charged before the court. So editors were very careful with the content that they broadcast, with content that they published. So there has been movement in the right direction to that end. However, when you go online, there's still a lot of anger against each tribes, anger against individuals, anger against political divisions, and that does not seem really well. Well, we may have had a peaceful election, but I think there needs to be a lot to be done yet in terms of healing the nation and moving forward as a united country. Remember, the election was won by just a small margin, over 50%. So it means the country is still divided in the middle, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done between now and the next election.
Well, David, we just saw in that earlier piece from the African Union that Rwanda was backing Kenya on the situation. The African Union, of course, itself has come out strongly in support of President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy in regard to the ICC situation. Where is this all going to leave the African Union and its previous support for the ICC?
Well, African Union has not been a very strong, having a very strong presence in African leadership matters. There are cases where they've dumbfounded the African citizens by taking positions supporting dictators, and there have been questions asked whether we really need it. Why isn't AU acting as strong as UN, for example, and other unions in Europe and Asia? But there have been good moves made by AU. We are seeing the peace being enjoyed in Somalia, for example. That was, for me, a very good credit for AU. But there are things which it must do pretty fast and to win the entire support of the African citizenship. No African citizen wants to see a dictator lording over them, and no African citizen wants to see corruption and impunity being perpetrated by leaders in office. I think AU must clarify what it really means when it makes such a move.
All right, David Ohito, the Vice Chairperson of the Kenya's Editors Guild, thank you very much for joining us on Africa Live. We'll now take a short break here on the program, but coming up, mixed reactions as Egypt Constitution Committee gets down to work. With the appointment of the 50 members committee to draft a new constitution, Egyptians are optimistic that they will avoid the mistakes of the 2012 draft, which was passed by a paltry 8% of the voting population due to low turnout during the plebiscite. The 50-member committee has an uphill task as expectations remain high among Egyptians. CCTV's Adel Mahroui tells us more.
After the Islamic powers' monopoly over the 2012 constitution, Egyptians are looking forward to consensus in drafting the new constitution. But the 50 members committee started off on the wrong foot, showing division. It rose fears that the new committee might not succeed to eliminate the problems of the previous draft.
Despite the diversity and division, electing Amir Musa has a significance. He was in the 2012 Constitution Committee and he left. So the majority chose a chairman who was against the Islamist-dominated constitution.
On Monday, the committee decided that articles will pass by the approval of at least 38 members to approach the popular demand of a consensus. The liberal dominance in the committee prioritizes human and women rights. They will try to make them fundamental rights in the constitution rather than leaving the law to determine their restrictions as in the 2012 constitution. Some analysts are hopeful. They say the new draft will meet the people's aspirations of freedom and democracy.
There are reservations on the committee's formation. There are rejections, but the majority agrees on its formation, on the basis that this committee has represented a wide spectrum of the Egyptian society. Therefore, I think it will meet the people's expectations.
But while the 50 members committee intends to stop religious authorities from giving their approval on laws, they are bound to write articles that do not contradict with Islamic laws. That's because the second article in the Constitution states that the principles of Islamic laws are the source of legislation. All members previously declared that this article will remain. To proceed with transparency, the committee decided to broadcast its meetings live on television. And to engage Egyptians even more, they created a committee to receive suggestions from the public. Adel Mahroui, CCTV, Cairo.
Now, as Madagascar prepares to go to the polls next month, there are more than 30 presidential candidates to pick from. But voters are united in one respect. They are all desperate for stability. CCTV Celestine Carone has more.
Doda Protocol makes his living analyzing statistics. He has one particular favorite.
Il y a au moins 4 crises majeures, 4 crises politiques majeures.
There were 4 important crises here, in 1972, 1991, 2002 and 2009. And the reason is always the same. Someone wants to get into power.
2009.
The last crisis was a coup 4 years ago. Life has been difficult in Madagascar since then, with economic sanctions and political instability. Protocol once had high hopes. The father of 2 remembers when the late Pope John Paul II visited in 1989. Anything seemed possible then. Now he is hoping elections set for October 25th will simply bring change for the better.
Pour moi,
it will be better to have this election. People can no longer stand this situation.
Sinon, la population ne peut plus.
Across town, Madame Farah is hoping the island's next president can help her finances. She sells handicraft made by her husband. Over the years, it's helped feed and educate their 4 children. But times have been tough.
It has been hard. Year after year, the business hasn't been doing well and we've had to sacrifice a lot. Even the buying of food in my household has been affected.
As for the younger people here, they are looking for a leader who's progressive and able to plan for the future, not just the next couple of years. There are lots of different hopes among voters here. What is clear is that people are tired of letting rival politicians dictate the fortunes of this island. Next month, if only for a day, millions will finally have their say. Celestine Carone, CCTV, in Antananarivo, Madagascar.
Well, Africa's business is coming up next, including